on my clock. So welcome. I am going to just jump right in. I am Jennifer Apgar. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Talking Book and Braille Center. Thank you for joining me this afternoon on Disability Rights, the Disability Rights New Jersey Tech Spot Services from the New Jersey State Library Talking Book and Braille Center. So I am going to, bear with me just a moment. Okay, so again, I'm Jen Apgar. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Talking Book and Braille Center. This is my contact information on the screen. My email address is japgar@njstatelib.org. My phone number is 800-792-8322, extension 823. I have a QR code on the screen as well that if you were to scan it, will bring you directly to our website. If you are unable to scan it or are unable to see it right now, the website for us is also www.njstatelib.org/TBB. Again, we are the Talking Book and Braille Center, and we are the division of the state library that provides accessible library services to anyone in New Jersey who is blind or print disabled. And I'm going to touch on that more, explaining what that means. We do provide audiobooks and audio magazines and Braille books and Braille magazines to any patron within New Jersey of all ages. And then we also have a large print collection for our children's and teens as well. So again, we are affiliated with the New Jersey State Library. And the state library has entered an agreement with the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled, part of the Library of Congress. And that means that TBBC is the library in New Jersey that provides library services from the National Library Service. And I will touch on that in just a moment as well. So the New Jersey State Library Talking Book and Braille Center is supported with funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. We always like to mention that and thank them for that. And again, so we are part of the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled. NLS is a nationwide program that is implemented on a state level. So there is an NLS library in any state that you live in, as long as you're a U.S. resident or even a U.S. resident or citizen living abroad. You can get access to our services no matter where you live in the country. We in New Jersey are the library within this state that provides library services to anyone within New Jersey who is eligible for services from the National Library Service. So to just touch back a bit, the National Library Service is the library that provides, they are the more centralized library, the global library that provides us in each state the services of Braille and audiobooks and magazines. They also provide the player and equipment that's needed to listen to those audiobooks, but then each state gets to implement the service as they wish. And each state may then function a little bit different. So in some cases, there are regional libraries that are connected to the public library. In other states, it may be part of the Department of Education. We are part of the state library. But the main thing to remember is that NLS does provide these services to all U.S. citizens and residents, and then we are the library in New Jersey that provides services throughout the state of New Jersey. So what does this mean then? You might be thinking, you said Braille and audio, what about large print? So as I mentioned, each state may function a bit different in how they operate. So every state will have access to the same audiobooks and Braille books throughout the entire country, but then on that state level, they may choose to do some auxiliary services. For us in New Jersey, we provide large print books specifically for our children's and teens. I'm going to talk a little bit more about large print later on. Then there may be some libraries may provide in-person programming. We do not because of where we are located in the state, but we have some virtual programming that we do. So every state then chooses how they are going to run within their particular state. So just a quick background about NLS. It was founded in 1931, and that's also when the structure that we have today was created, which is a more centralized library that creates the materials, but then the state's running the program on that statewide level. So the timeline of events covers over 90 years, and NLS does continue to grow and change with the times, including when it expanded to include children, when it was just specifically for adults and expanded to include children, and then also when it expanded the program beyond just blindness and low vision to include additional print disabilities. And then in 2020, we saw a change in how applications were processed. We were now able to accept electronic signatures that were then acceptable. And then in 2021, we also expanded the list of certifying authority. And I'll explain what that means a bit more as we talk about eligibility and how to sign up for services. Really quick too, just because this is important in how we function and how we operate, there are many laws and regulations that govern NLS and how it provides services. If you're interested in the exact laws and those regulations and amendments and timeframe, you can go onto the NLS page and check out more information about that. But what's important to remember is that NLS is governed by laws, including amendments to the copyright law, that allows it to deliver unique services to people who are blind and print disabled. If there is abuse to the program, for let's say somebody signs up who just wants to listen to audiobooks but does not have that print disability that I mentioned, or if they attempt to break the software or any of the equipment that's needed to listen to it, that could restrict how we use our, it could jeopardize the entire program. So we want to make sure that those who are eligible for services are indeed the ones who are getting services. So that's why these laws and regulations mean that NLS can create and distribute those audiobooks and Braille book versions of these books published in the US. And it does for a specific audience, again, those who are blind and print disabled. We are able to make, or NLS is able to make unlimited copies of audio and Braille books. So that means that there are no wait lists for any of the items that we have available. It is pretty significant that we can do this, which means we are strict about who can borrow those books. So I'm going to talk about that eligibility and how to sign up in just a little bit. So for audio, though, it means that you either use our player or you can use an authorized player by NLS, which could be a smartphone or a tablet. And I'll get into the equipment in just a little bit. In addition, just to continue with the laws and regulations before we get into the details about how our program works, we have the Chaffee Amendment. Now, the Chaffee Amendment, before the Chaffee Amendment was passed in 1996, that meant that authors and publishers had to get permission or had to give permission for NLS to make and distribute copies of the books that were recorded for our collection. After the Chaffee Amendment was passed, that means that we no longer have to, excuse me, a moment. It looks like I have stopped sharing, so give me just a moment to get back up, and I've lost my PowerPoint. Bear with me for just a moment. Sorry about this. I'm not sure what just happened. Just a moment. It looks like PowerPoint shut down on me unexpectedly. You've got to love technology right in the middle of a presentation, not cooperating with you. So let me just get back to where I was. Share the presentation. All righty. Sorry about this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Are we back? Can everybody see that now? A thumbs up or in the chat,
Yes.
just letting me know that you can see my screen. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries. Gotta love technology.
Gotta love it. All right. Okay, perfect. So let me just get back to where I was in the presentation. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so the Chaffee Amendment. So after the Chaffee Amendment was passed, that meant that NLS no longer had to get permission from the copyright holder to create the books that are in our collection as long as certain conditions were met. So with this with this amendment, it makes it easier for NLS to create audiobooks and Braille books. Another way to look at this is that all of the books NLS creates and distributes, publishers and authors are not getting paid. And they are okay with this because of the benefit it gives to the print disabled community. And it means that we have to, which also then means we have to make sure that folks are eligible for the program. So I know I've talked a lot now about eligibility. You've heard that come up quite a bit. So what does that mean to be eligible for our services? So again, it's that print disability. It's that global term right now that we're using, print disability, to capture everybody who is eligible for NLS services. So that could be somebody who is blind or low vision. And low vision can be even the print in the newspaper is too tiny to read comfortably. So it doesn't necessarily need to be anything more than that, as long as that print is too tiny to read comfortably. It could also be somebody who, for a physical reason, cannot hold a book or turn the pages of a book. So think of something like neuropathy, diabetes, something that may affect your hands, arthritis, something like that with the physical disability where you can no longer hold that book or turn the pages. And it could also be reading disabilities. And in these cases too, could be something that's permanent or temporary. So let's say you have an accident, you've fallen, you've broken both of your wrists, you can no longer hold that book for a temporary amount of time. That could also qualify somebody for our services. So we also like to mention that as well. So how do we know somebody is eligible for our services? Well, we do have an application that does have to be completed for anybody to get services from us. Our application can be found online. Our most recent version is always on our website. So if you happen to have used our services in the past, you have some old applications, you can always access what our current one is online. So the first page of the application has all of the information that's needed for the qualifying patron. So it's going to ask for name, address, phone number. On that page, there is also a checkbox, which I have highlighted on the screen here. It's the checkbox that says, please indicate the primary disability preventing you from reading regular printed material. And you can choose visual, physical, blindness, reading disability, or deaf blindness. You choose one of those to prove eligibility. And then on the application, if you are working with students, I'm not sure if I'm speaking with a complete adult population or a population that may be working with students as well, or have children that may be eligible for services, because as I mentioned, our services are for all ages. I am the youth services librarian, so I work with children ages 0 through 18. And then from there, they'd be working with our adult reader services, staff here. So it's for all ages, and you do not age out of the program. So on our application, we did try to make it a kind of a one-size-fits-all application. And there is information on there that if a student would also like to receive services at school, we can set that information up as well. So this way they don't have to complete a separate application. They can fill it all out on there. And the reason we do this is because we know that what a student may be reading at home may be different than what they're reading at school. So we want to have that both available so that they can get services in both locations, so they don't have to carry items back and forth necessarily. So again, that application is required. Now it's that second page of the application though, that is probably even more important than the first. The first page is obviously important because our services are all by mail. So we need to know where our items will be sent to and who the patron is and how they qualify. But it's the second page of the application that is even more important because that is where we have our certifying authority page. Now, before I show you what that might look like, I want to just explain who a certifying authority is. It is a professionals who are signing off on the application that the person does indeed qualify for services with us. Now, this list is on the application. You don't need to take notes. It is all listed there for you. There will not be a pop quiz at the end either. But the list of who can certify an application can be a doctor of medicine, a doctor of osteopathy, an optometrist, an ophthalmologist, a registered nurse, therapist, and then again, professional staff of hospitals, institutions, public or private welfare agencies. And that could also be educators, certified reading specialists, librarians, school psychologists, superintendents. And again, this is on the application. But we wanted to highlight who can sign because it is a wide array of people who are qualified to sign the application. So when I say about signing an application, this is a screenshot from the portion of that certifying authority page. In addition to this, there is also that list of certifying authorities who are eligible to sign. So that information is all on there, but I wanted to highlight how a person will sign off as a certifying authority. One thing that I want to mention is that we do not need background information. We don't need medical notes or any explanation as to why the person qualifies. If you were to send us that information, we'd either send it back to you or shred it. We don't want that background information. It is this page, that certifying authority page, that is essential for us though to get anybody signed up with our services. So without this filled out, we wouldn't be able to do anything, even if we had that background information. It's this that we need, this certifying authority page. So on this page is a screenshot of what that certified authority page looks like. It says to be completed by certifying authority, and then it has the person's name. You'd fill out who that certifying authority is. So in this particular case, I used Riley Smith. Include any credentials or initials that you've earned after your name, so we know that you are indeed qualified to sign off on the application. So I did. So it's Riley Smith, MLIS, which is one of the librarian master's certificates or master's degrees. Title, school librarian. Organization, ABC school, just for a fictional school for demonstration purposes. Email address, phone number, city, state, zip code. Underneath this, I have highlighted a box that says, I certify that this applicant is eligible for NLS services. Required. That box is indeed required, as mentioned, and it does have to be checked off. And that is essential for this application. Without that box being checked off, we will have to turn it back to you and say, sorry, you've got to send this back to us. We can't take it. So that box is the check mark saying, yes, I, Riley Smith, certify that this applicant is indeed eligible for services. And then the signature, the electronic signature on this page is just simply Riley Smith typing on that signature line and dating it. So we wanted to highlight that. And again, we don't need that background information. It is this certifying authority page that is most important. This is if you are filling out the application entirely online. So you have accessed our website, you've pulled up either the Word document or the PDF, you've typed everything into the application, and now you're signing the application with this electronic signature. That's how you would then once this is complete, you can email this to us and we would then get the patron signed up for services. If you do have to print the application for any reason, this is just an example of the handwritten application. You do still need to check off that or X out that box of the required box that I certified that the applicant is indeed eligible. If you do need to print it, you can then, or if you do need to print it out for any reason and handwrite on the application, we then ask that you either put it in the mail to us or scan it, fax it, or email it to us back that way, please. So I just wanted to touch on the application. Do I have any questions so far before I move on? Don't see anything in the chat. I'm just going to go proceed. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put the question in the chat. I'll try to address them as we're going along. And if it's something that I may be getting to, I'll let you know that as well. So again, just submitting our application, you can submit it to our email address or our address, and this information is on our website or is on the application as well. On this slide, I did put submitting any application that may be for a youth patron to our TBBC youth@njstatelib.org email address, or we do have a generic TBBC email, which is tbbc@njstatelib.org. Either one of those are fine. So now I want to get into who we are and what benefits that we have, what our library is. So some of our benefits, we are just like the public library. There is no cost to join us at TBBC, and there's no cost to borrow any of our books. We are located in Trenton, but our books are mailed all across New Jersey, so there's no need to come to us. We can either send them, like I said, to home, or if a person is at school, we can send them as well, send them there as well. There is no postage that is needed to send any of our materials back or forth. Again, it's at no cost, and there's no wait list for our audiobooks. As I mentioned earlier with that Chaffee Amendment, we are able to create those books for an unlimited amount of copies that anybody may need. So there is no wait list. So let's say you have the latest book that has come out that everybody is just dying to have and wants access to, and we have 500 people in our library who want that book all at once. All 500 people can have that book at once. We can create those cartridges and get them sent out for them, or they can be downloading books too, which I will talk about in a moment. So there is no service, there's no wait list. We also can create individual reading profiles for anybody who gets services. With the way our audiobooks work, and I'll get into our audiobook service in a moment, we can send everything by mail, and we can send them on preloaded audiobook cartridges. And the same thing with our, we can send our Braille books out as well. So I want to just highlight that each person who is in our library gets their own account, gets their own individualized reading profiles. So let's say let's use students for an example, and you have 3 students that you're working with. Each student is going to be reading most likely something very different. They might have different reading interests. So each student will then have their own reading profile to be able to accommodate and to document what they're reading and how they're reading, to make sure they're all getting exactly what they want and how they're getting it. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is we now have access to more world languages than we have had in the past. We have entered into a treaty called the Marrakesh Treaty, which allows us to have access to, I think we're well over 40 international languages right now, or world languages. So, and that is constantly increasing. So that means that the world languages that are books that are recorded in that native language, in that world language, that we now have access to here in the US. And another service that we offer is BARD, which is our Braille and audio reading download service, which is from the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled, which is again part of the Library of Congress. And I'll touch on that in just a bit more too. So first I'm going to talk about our audiobooks. So our audiobook service, because we're able to record those books outside of the copyright law, we have access to over 100,000 titles in the collection, which is much more than what's available on the commercial market. We have the popular authors and genres, but we also have those mid-list titles that may be harder to find, if not impossible to find. So think of things like cookbooks or science projects or gardening books, something like that might have never been made into a commercial audiobook that might not be available in a bookstore or public library. We would have those. So without access to a library like ours, it may be impossible or near impossible to get access to these books in this accessible format. So we also have a vast collection of audio magazines available as well. And just like the books that are recorded for the commercial market, any book that NLS creates is when they create an original recording of a book that is specific for the NLS collection, it is done by a professional narrator and goes through a very rigorous quality control to ensure that it is a top quality audiobook. This slide shows what our audiobooks look like if a patron receives them by mail. That image is on the bottom left corner. Those are our audiobooks. On the case is our mailing label, so that when a patron is through with the cartridge, they will remove the card that is in this image. It's in the top right corner of the bottom left image, which may be confusing. It is a white card that has a list of the audiobooks that are included on that particular cartridge. On the front of that card is the patron's information that gets sent to them, their mailing address, and they would take that card out. That on the back side of that card is the list of the books. Inside the container is the cartridge that contains those audiobooks. So when a person is done with this, as I mentioned, there's no cost because the postage that they need to send back our audiobooks is included on that container. So that is there with the label. They pop the cartridge back in and it goes into the mail like that. What they play the device on is the image that's in the top left corner, the top left of this image, which is the black player that is about the size of a hardcover book, and it has a variety of buttons on the top. That is our audiobook player, and that's loaned to somebody on an indefinite loan. So that audiobook player they would hold on to. The audiobooks that come on those preloaded cartridges is what gets circulated back and forth. And within the last few years, we have changed how our circulation system has been. So it now allows us to basically create customized individual cartridges on an on-demand purpose or an on-demand usage for any of our patrons. So everybody is now getting their own specific, unique cartridge sent to them in the mail. We're basically downloading onto these cartridges for any patron who may not be able to download the audiobooks from themselves if they choose not to. It's on the right image that it looks like very similar to the interface of the player. This is what our digital mobile app looks like. So that is the BARD application. And I'm going to talk about BARD in just a moment, but I wanted to just highlight the different ways that you can access our audiobooks, whether it's by mail on the machine that we would lend out, send the cartridges by mail, or by downloading and accessing our audiobooks through a mobile app or from a computer. Really quick too about our Braille books. For Braille readers, we can provide Braille in a variety of ways. We have your traditional pressed Braille that is sent by the mail, and they can range in a variety of sizes from 1 volume to multiple volumes of Braille. We do also have a new program now called Braille on Demand, which allows us to request Braille books for patrons that get sent directly to the patron that they can then keep. That Braille on Demand program is new and exciting for us, and it's been a fun way to be able to provide an additional resource for Braille. And then we also have electronic Braille, where you can download a Braille book and read directly from the Braille e-reader. The Braille e-reader is sitting on top of an open Braille book. It is a much smaller device that is about the size, if anybody remembers an old VHS tape, it's probably about the size of an old VHS tape. I might be dating myself now. And it is a black device with a refreshable display of Braille cells, which means that there are white pins that pop up and down. When you get to the end of a line, you press a button, those pins come down and refresh to a new Braille line. This makes Braille reading much more portable. Braille can take up a lot of space. This image is an image of a Braille book that is 6 volumes large, 6 volumes big for one Braille book. And then also the Braille e-reader is sitting on top of that open volume to display that those 6 volumes are now on that cartridge or can be downloaded to that device, making it much more portable. As I mentioned, we do also have access to downloading books through our BARD mobile app or through BARD itself. BARD mobile can be accessed on any smartphone or tablet, an iPhone, iPad, Android, or Kindle Fire. You have 24/7 access to the books and magazines that are available from there. Once a patron is signed up with services from us, we can then also sign them up for that BARD mobile service as well. And it is a 24/7 access. I believe the limit now for books is you can download 250 books in a 30-day rolling period. So it is a large number of books that can be downloaded at any particular time, and that's a rolling 30 days too. So it's that once, several books may fall off the list, and then that opens up new books again to be able to download. If you do not have access to a smartphone or tablet, but you are interested in downloading, you can also download directly from the BARD website. These are 2 screenshots directly from the BARD website. The first screenshot is of the where you log into the BARD website, and then the bottom screenshot is what the display looks like for searching through the BARD website. It's the top page of the BARD website and where you would search the collection. There's many more search functions in this as well. I just wanted to highlight the different ways that you can download books. As I mentioned, we do also have access to international or world languages. We have over 40 and counting. They are both in audiobooks and Braille books. They are accessed throughout the entire world right now, which also means that our English language book collection has increased in addition to our world languages because of libraries like Canada or even in Europe with English-speaking countries that have added books into our collection. So even that collection has grown and increased. In addition to our international language, of course, we have Spanish language books as well, and we do have a Hispanic outreach coordinator here at the library. So if you have any questions or if you have any Spanish speaking patrons who may be interested in services, we do have somebody on staff who can help them directly. And I wanted to just take a few more minutes to talk about some additional services that we have. As I mentioned, we do have titles that may not be available elsewhere because we were able to record them outside of that copyright law and add them into our collection. We do have access to over 100,000 titles, as I had mentioned as well. And then we have access to services like NFB Newsline. So if you are set up with services from us at the library, we can also get you set up with NFB Newsline, which is a radio recording program that have access to worldwide and local newspapers and magazines. So that's a service that's available as well. And then, as I mentioned, that we have magazines. I've highlighted some of the children's magazines, Humpty Dumpty, National Geographic for kids, Sports Illustrated for kids. We have magazines for all ages. Think of Good Housekeeping. We have Sports Illustrated, National Geographic on the adult level as well. So just to highlight a few of those. As I mentioned, we also have our large print book collection. I just wanted to talk about that very quickly. For our children and teens, we specifically have large print just for kids and teens because we have found that public libraries do a very great job at circulating adult large print. So rather than duplicating those efforts, because large print is a collection that we at TVBC maintain and fund, whereas our audiobooks and our Braille books come from the National Library Service and are provided to us, we fund the large print collection. Therefore, we wanted to focus our efforts on large print that's for specifically our middle grade and our young adult readers, because we found that that might not be a collection that's easily as obtained from a public library or other resources. So because of that, our book collection is specifically for our kids and teens, and they start about a third grade reading level just because that is what is produced in large print. So that is where our large print collection starts. So this is highlighting some of our large print books in a showcase of the books on the shelf. We do have your classics, your nonfiction. We have the newest releases, award winners, and then we have recently added a small collection of Spanish language books as well. They are adding Spanish language large print books into the collection for children and teens too. So we were able to add that to our collection recently also. So you may be wondering how you find these books in our collection. We are not a browsing library. So one way to do this is to call us. You can always call us to talk to us about books that we have available. You have access to online catalogs, whether it's Talking Book Topics or Braille Book Review, which are catalogs that NLS puts out that are available every 2 months for the newest books that are in the catalog. International Language Quarterly comes out every quarter for the newest books that are added into that collection. And then there's the NLS catalog as well. We are also always on the go doing virtual presentations, in-person presentations. We do story times for preschoolers, second graders, middle school, libraries, whatever it may be. We've gone to book fairs. We just wanted to highlight the variety of ways that TVBC is out in the community and what we are available for. So if you ever think that there is something that you might want us to be part of, whether it's an exhibit fair, a resource fair, transition fair, feel free to contact us and we can certainly chat about that. I also just wanted to highlight different ways or different resources that are available. Bookshare and Learning Ally, one way that we are that we all kind of coexist. We at TVBC do not circulate textbooks. Bookshare and Learning Ally do have textbooks. Bookshare and Learning Ally, they're separate agencies. There may be a fee for their service. So I certainly say contact them to see what information they may have, but I like to just highlight that we do not have textbook. Bookshare and Learning Ally are resources for textbooks. And then there's on the NLS website, additional resources that are available as well. We're always looking at things that may be coming ahead. We have some great technology that's in the forecast coming for NLS. Keep an eye on the news that we are on, information that we may be putting out or what may be down the pipeline coming up. I think there's some exciting things coming, hopefully in the near future. So I just wanted to mention that we're always looking ahead to what the future may bring and that the technology will certainly be there as well. We are also on social media, whether it's X or Facebook, Instagram, Threads. You can find us under the State Library's social media handle at NJ State Library. We are affiliated with them with our own individual posts as well. This is a survey. If you would like to fill that out on how you thought this presentation went, I'll come back to this in just a moment. And then if you have any questions, here's my contact information again. So I wanted to keep this to 12:30, which is 12:30 on the dot. So I'll put that survey back up and I can answer any questions that anyone might have. And there is a question in the chat of if you have access to the presentation so I could share with my staff. I'm going to ask Naomi, I can share these slides with you if you want to share them with those who have registered, or I'm not sure how you.
Yeah, if you put it in the chat, I will make sure it gets out to everyone when I send out the recording. That would
Sure.
be great.
Sure, I'll work with you then in sending the PowerPoint to you directly. Will that work? And then sending that out?
Yes, that would be
Excellent.
perfect.
So yes, Sarah, you will have access to these slides. Are there any other questions I can answer? Okay, well, I thank you all for your time. I know I went through information very, very quickly because it's a lot of information. Anything that I talked about today, we could easily do its own presentation on. So I wanted to just kind of touch on everything that we have available and hopefully provide enough information that if anyone does have questions afterwards, feel free to get in touch with me or anybody here at the Talking Book and Braille Center. We're happy to chat with you or answer any questions you may have, or if anything you've thought of after the fact, please reach out to us and we're happy to answer that.
Thank you, Jennifer. This was wonderful.